Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and we are back with another game of Rusty Dagger. It's a solo indie miniatures agnostic adventure game presented in zine format. So all the rules and adventures are presented in these double-sided single sheet of paper that you fold up into a little magazine. We are following the exploits of Raskin the Reptile, the notorious, infamous, and unemployed mercenary captain. He is currently level 3, he has the skill Second Wind, which allows him once per combat encounter to take a third action in a round, and he just picked up Heavy Blow, which if he uses 2 actions to attack, he can cause 2 points of damage. He has 12 health, which is pretty good. He's got a massive swordsmanship of 13, which gives him plus 3 to his attack rolls, a brawn of 8, which gives him plus 2 to his defense rolls when he's getting attacked in melee, and pretty much the rest of his stats are garbage. For equipment, he carries a Maiden's Ring, 2 small healing potions, a vial of acid, and a revive potion. Because he keeps getting his companions killed, the only person that's managed to stick with him this long is Jill the Villager. Jill has straight zeros for her stats, which means that she's -2 to every action that she takes. She has 4 health, a small healing potion, a potion of invisibility, and a magic robe that we don't know what it does. We haven't been able to identify it yet. Today's adventure is Rescue from Stonelock. It is the final adventure that you can download from DriveThruRPG. There are more on the Rusty Dagger Facebook group, but this is it for the ones that I got in that initial set of downloads. It's an adventure for levels 2 through 3, so we're on the high end of things. Raskin and Jill are out stomping around when they get an invitation from the King of Everan, which I guess is the Elven kingdom. Turns out the king's daughter, Princess Azalea, had a bit of a falling out with her dad, and so she was out traveling beyond the Elven kingdom and she got herself captured. She's being held in the fortress of Stonelock, which I guess is in the human land, so he feels like this operation should be done relatively discreetly, and for some reason he thought we were the right people to take this on. But to hedge his bets, he is going to send another companion with us. We get the Elven warrior Vilde. Vilde is pretty good. Sorry Jill, but it's true. For equipment, he has a longbow with 5 arrows. He has a health of 12, which is as much as Raskin has. His swordsmanship and brawn are between average and bad. So to defend against melee attacks, he has no modifier, and to attack people with his sword, he has -1 to hit. He also has negatives in survival, luck, and guile, but it's the archery skill and the agility that really stand out. So when people are shooting at him, he has a +2 to defend, and when he's shooting at them, he has a massive +3. Exactly what the party needs, someone good at ranged combat. Not only that, but he also has the Elven accuracy rule, which means that if he hits an opponent with a 10 or more, it does 2 wounds instead of 1, which is great. I wish I'd remembered it during this game. I completely forget about it. It's okay, he's still really good. So we travel to Stonelock, and we get into the castle by bribing a local merchant. We hide out in a secret compartment in his wagon, all Han Solo style. We hop out, and we're immediately presented with a narrative challenge. We have to sneak across the courtyard without being seen. So each of the members of the party has to make an agility check. If all of us score an 8 or above, then we've done it. We sneak by and we don't alert the guards. If any of us fail, then we have a fight on our hands. So of course when we make checks, we're going to roll 2d6 and add our modifier. Vilde's looking pretty good for this. He's got a +2. Raskin, not so much. He has no modifier. The real problem is Jill, who has a -2. So it's pretty unlikely we're all going to get 8s, but I'm going to try anyway. Might as well start with the guy in charge. We're going to roll for Raskin first, and we get a double 1. Fantastic, Raskin. So he climbs out of the wagon, immediately trips over his own shoes, falls into a crate of feral alley cats or something, and we alert the guards. Just for completeness sake, let's see how the rest of the party does. Well, Jill rolls a 7, which is slightly better, but with her -2, that brings her to 5, so she fails. And then we go with Vilde with that nice +2 of his. He rolls a 4 and gets a 6, so he fails too. So at least we're all incompetent together. So that means we have a fight on our hands. We're going to set up the grid like this. It's got a scattering of 5 low obstacles. My guys end up in a fairly central deployment. And we are facing off against 5 goblin cutters and a single goblin archer. The goblin cutters are really bad. They only have 1 health and they have an action die of a whole 1d6 +1. They do have an interesting skill called Group Bash, so I guess they're good at all mobbing people as one. So when a goblin goes and attacks one of my guys, any model with the Group Bash skill that is adjacent to that target also gets to attack. So while they're pretty weak individually and unlikely to hurt with any given attack, there's the possibility that if they're all surrounding one of my guys, they can unload a lot of attacks. The Goblin Archer is exactly the same as the Goblin Cutters, but he has a bow. It doesn't specify the range, so I'm just going to give him the same range that the longbow has, 10 spaces. He does get a +1 to hit with ranged attacks, so he's slightly less pathetic than the rest of them. So we're going to set up the initiative bag before the fight starts. As always, we're going to put 3 of my tokens in the bag and 3 of the bad guys' tokens. This is the first time that we have a fight with more bad guys than number of tokens in the bag. I believe the way this works is that the extra bad guys just don't get to act. I know it seems weird, but there's nothing that stops me from giving all of my activations to one guy, so weirdness is just baked into the rules. I draw a good guy token to start with, so I'm going to go with Raskin. Yeah, I could use Vilde's new bow, but I'm not sure that goblins are really worth it. I only have 5 arrows. I'm going to advance Raskin just a touch. I want him to be the closest guy as the goblins advance towards him, and I want to be in a position to charge in and attack any advancing goblins when it's my turn to go again. Sure enough, goblins get the next activation, and so the closest goblin is going to charge towards Raskin his full 4 squares. We get another bad guy activation, and so the next goblin cutter moves up as well. Then we're back to the good guys. Raskin's going to go and he's going to counterattack. If I move into this lead goblin, no one else is going to be able to get to me. Each model gets 2 actions when they activate. They can't repeat any actions, so Raskin's first action is to move forward, his second action is to attack. Raskin rolls 2d6 and adds his swordsmanship of +3, getting himself a 7. The goblin only rolls a 4, he only rolls a d6 plus 1. That means the goblin takes a wound, only has 1 health, it immediately dies. Take that, you goblin. We get another good guy activation after that. I could keep rushing forward with Raskin, but I want my new guy to start earning his paycheck. Vilde is going to move forward a little bit, and I'm going to take a shot at that goblin archer. He's in a position to actually hurt my guys. I don't want to deal with him. The longbow has a range of 10 squares. I'm shooting over the low obstacle, which is going to subtract 1 from my total score, but Vilde does pretty well. He rolls an 8, adds his archery skill of 3 for 11, minus 1 for the intervening terrain, gives him 10. Goblin only manages to get a 4. Goblin takes a wound and dies. Not only that, because Vilde went and rolled 10 or above, he actually would have caused 2 wounds, but it doesn't really matter. A dead goblin is a dead goblin. Nicely done. The ranged threat to my opponents has now been neutralized. So back to the bad guys, it's only goblin cutters now, and so the last one just moves up behind his buddy there, trying to get around him. So new round, all the tokens go back in the bag, and we draw a good guy token again. Well, they're all getting pretty close, so I'm going to activate Raskin the Reptile again. He's going to charge into that lead goblin, and I'm going to roll a 10 to the goblin's 3. Yeah, badly outmatching these guys. Another dead goblin. And just to really pile on the brutality, we get another good guy token. Yeah, Raskin's just going to sweep up this whole lower section of the board. Immediately piles into the next goblin in the line, kills him with an 8-5, just leaving a gruesome trail of carnage with that hammer of his. Finally get a bad guy activation. We've got one goblin in the center there. He's just as far from Raskin as he is from Vilde. We roll randomly to see who he goes after. He goes after Vilde. Another bad guy activation, and his buddy falls in line behind him. This maybe isn't great because now we have a bad guy token and a good guy token left in the bag. If the bad guy token is drawn, because there's only 2 goblins left, that lead goblin is going to get another activation. He's going to go charging into Vilde and his squishy brawn of no modifier. It was not to be, however. We get another good guy activation. Raskin is hogging all the activations. He's going to take another turn. He's going to go charging straight into that lead goblin. Hammers him into the dirt with an 11-2. The last bad guy token comes up. That poor goblin, he is going to bravely charge into the fray. He's actually going to get an attack against one of my guys. It's d6 plus 1 versus my 2d6 plus 2. He gets a 4 to my 9, which is about what you would expect. No damage caused. On to the next round. Tokens back in the bag. Immediately draw a good guy token. All the luck is on my side. Raskin squishes the last goblin with another really good roll of 11-4. After the battle, we get to loot the bodies. One of my companions can get 5 arrows. I'm going to go and give this to Jill. I'm not 100% sure, but it kind of seems like the maximum number of arrows you can carry around at any time is 5. So I'd be wasting a couple if I gave any to Vilde. He still has 4 in the quiver. So yeah, Jill can hang on to these for now. We also get d6 plus 2 gold. I rolled a bare minimum of 3. In combat, we're amazing. Out of combat, we're about as bad as you would expect. So after the carnage in the courtyard, we sneak in through the kitchen door and find access to the dungeons below the castle. Immediately we come upon the prison cells and it's another combat challenge. This time we're facing off against a goblin archer, an orc, and a gelatinous cube. The orcs are not bad. They have 4 health, they have action dice of d10 plus 1, and they have the heavy blow skill, meaning that they cause 2 wounds on each hit instead of 1. The gelatinous cube is just sort of weird. Action dice of d12, so real swingy, health of 3, only moves 2 squares, but if it moves on top of one of my guys, it can try and engulf them. The targeted model has to make an agility test of 7 or more. If it passes, then it moves 2 spaces away. If it fails, then it's trapped inside the gelatinous cube. It takes 1 damage at the start of each of its activations, and all it can do is use 2 actions to try and escape, meaning it has to make a survival roll of 7 or more. So, weird. As for the map, we've got 2 small, low pieces of terrain, and the first 2 rows are completely occupied by cells, so we can't go into those at all. We've got a narrower map than we usually have. For my deployment, Raskin starts at the very top with Jill right below him, and then Vilde decides that he's going to jump in front. Really wants to save that princess of his. The bad guys deploy with the orc at the top, the gelatinous cube behind that barrel, and the goblin archer down at the bottom. Combat start, and we get a good guy token, so I'm going to start with Vilde again, and Vilde's going to do some counter battery fire. Again, I just want to get rid of that goblin archer. I also want Vilde to get out of Raskin's way, so he moves down to the bottom, staying at the maximum range of his longbow, takes a shot at the goblin, no cover to modify my score, gets a massive 14 to the goblin's 2. Just shotguns the goblin's head off. After that, we get another good guy activation. Raskin's going to move forward. I want to draw the orc closer to me. Sure enough, bad guys come after that. The orc takes the bait and comes charging down the corridor. Then we get my final good guy activation, so Raskin's going to charge in. I'm also going to use a bunch of my special abilities. So my first action is to move, and then I'm going to use my once per combat challenge second wind to get an additional action. So I got 2 more actions to spend, and I'm going to use those to strike with heavy blow. The orc has a bunch of wounds. I want to cause as many as possible. Unfortunately, Raskin rolls pretty bad. Gets 3 on the dice for a grand total of 6, and the orc rolls up a total of 10. You can't beat a fight with an orc by bonking him on the head. A bad guy token comes up next, and so the gelatinous cube starts to slowly ooze from around that barrel. And the final bad guy token comes out, and so now the orc gets to swing back at Raskin. Rolls his d10 plus 1, gets an 8, which is not bad. Raskin rolls an average 7 on the dice, giving him a total of 9. Raskin defends the strike with the choppa and comes out unharmed. New round, and again we draw a good guy token first. Raskin's going to use his full round to strike with a heavy blow against the orc, this time rolling a pretty respectable 11 versus the orc's less respectable grand total of 4. That causes 2 wounds to the orc. He's half dead. Bad guy token comes up next. The orc's going to take another swing at Raskin. This time rolls a 3. Definitely got tired by having to charge across the hallway like that. Raskin easily defends with a 7. Another bad guy token comes out, and the gelatinous cube continues to slither across the ground. Third bad guy token comes out, and so the orc gets another crack at this. Again, his dice have gone ice cold. Rolls a 2 versus Raskin's 10. You know I always want the orcs to do pretty well, but just not doing great on his offense here. So we got 2 tokens in the bag, and we know they are both good guy tokens. We're going to start with Raskin. He's figured out how to fight orcs. The head is not the vulnerable spot. He gets a grand total of 12. The orc does a little better, defending with an 8, but he still takes 2 points of damage and falls over dead. The last good guy activation of the round is going to be Vilde. I don't really want to get real close to this gelatinous cube. It kind of intimidates me. I'm going to shoot it with arrows instead. Vilde takes a shot, gets a total of 14. Nice rolling. The blob rolls real well. It gets an 11, but it's not enough. Takes a point of damage. Again, should have taken 2, but I totally forgot about that Elven accuracy rule. So new round, fresh set of tokens again. Good guys going first. Man, we are fast people. Vilde's going to shoot with his second to last arrow. This time, doesn't roll real well. Gets a 7, and the gelatinous cube rolls a 10. Just gobbles up the arrow and spits out the arrowhead. Bad guy token comes up next, and the cube slithers towards Raskin. Almost there. And then gets a consecutive action. We get to see it try and engulf somebody. Raskin has to make an agility test of 7 or more. He's got no modifier to this. Little better than 50-50 chance. He manages to do it. Rolls himself an 8. Raskin hops backward 2 squares away from the disappointed blob. We go to the initiative bag again, see if the blob can follow up and continue to try and eat Raskin, but we get a good guy token instead. Raskin found out there's no getting away from this thing. He moves in and strikes with his hammer, gets an 11, the blob defends with an 8, blob takes another point of damage. 1 of each token left in the bag. I really don't want Raskin to get absorbed by the blob. If that happens, I suppose I can always just not activate him and avoid taking any damage that way. But then I'm relying on Vilde with his 1 whole arrow and Jill with her bad stats to get me out. And I'm not sure that's going to go real well. Anyway, it doesn't matter because the luck has just been with me. I get a good guy token. Raskin takes another swing at the blob, kills it with a 14 versus 9. The blob was rolling pretty good, but that +3 swordsmanship is just hard to overcome. So the challenge is won, we get to loot again. This time we're gonna roll a luck check. Somehow Raskin the Reptile has the best luck of all the group with no modifiers, so we're just rolling a straight 2d6. On 1 or less, we find nothing. Well, I can't roll a 1 or less because I don't have a negative modifier. On a 2 through 4, I find a small healing potion. On a 5 through 7, I find cell keys. I'll get to that in a little bit. And on an 8 plus, I find the cell keys and a shield. The shield is amazing, plus 2 defense. Really good item. I don't know why I can't just buy one of these things. Of course, I would have to go and paint a new miniature, which I don't exactly want to do. But it doesn't matter because, as always, that eye patch of Raskin's really hurts his ability to look through a room, and we just get a small healing potion. Vilde can have that. He's got inventory spaces to burn. And there's a little camp icon after this, too, which is nice. It means we can trade items, so Jill is going to give Vilde her 5 arrows and take the 1 arrow remaining. And then we're going to take another crack at identifying this magic robe. I think we need a 10 or more on an arcane check. Jill and Raskin are really bad at this. We both have -2 to arcane, but Vilde's actually pretty good. He's got a +2, but even so, this robe is just a mystery beyond us. Rolls really poorly, and we can't figure out what that thing does. Moving on, and we go straight into a narrative challenge. From one of the cells, you hear an old man. He's saying, "Oh, please, free me. I'll help you out." Well, if we'd gotten the cell keys, which we didn't, we could have freed him, which would have been really nice for a number of reasons. First off, he would have become a companion, and he's not just some random old man that is following us around. He's a wizard. He comes with a chain lightning spell. That's the same spell that the King of the Rats was throwing at us way back in the Den of Rats adventure. So another ranged companion. That would have been great. I would have been okay running around with Jill the elf and a wizard. Raskin would have also gotten a bonus 2 skill points if we made it out of the adventure with him still alive. But no, lock too complex, too short on time. We leave another companion to die. You sure this is the group you want to be running around with there, Vilde? So leaving the old man in the cells, we continue on, and finally we get to our last combat challenge. We find the prisoner Azalea. She's up there at the top, the extreme left-hand corner. And we find her captors, Duggan the Slaver and 3 thugs. The thugs are pretty basic, normal move, 3 health, action die of a d8. Duggan the Slaver's a little bit better. 4 health, action dice of d10 plus 2, and a heavy blow skill. So just like the orc, he does 2 points of damage when he hits. We've got a scattering of low terrain, and we have a special rule for Princess Azalea. She's all chained up, but she can make a small move at the end of every round. She's going to head 2 squares towards the extreme right-hand edge. Once she gets there, then she just leaves the board. She's free. We win if we escape off that same edge. That's cool and everything, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. I mean, compared to the bad guys at the end of the Spire of the Golem and Den of Rats, these guys don't seem that hard. I think I'm just going to kill them all and win that way. So as deployment goes, again, Azalea's in the top left, Raskin is in the center, Jill's in the lower section. Vilde decides that he's going to protect his princess and he's going to stand right in front of her. That's cool. Duggan the Slaver is in the center of the right-hand column. He's got a thug directly in front of him. He just threw him forward as kind of a meat shield. And he's got a thug directly above and below his position. So combat round starts and the bad guys get to go first. So a thug just advances straight up the board like that. Good guys activate next. And because Duggan had pushed that thug forward in the beginning of the setup, he's actually within range of Raskin. So I'm going to activate Raskin. He's going to move forward his full 4 steps. I'm not going to do my second wind with the heavy blow or anything. I'm just going to do a normal hit on the thug. I do manage to connect 9 versus 4. Thug takes a wound. We then get another good guy activation. I'm just going to activate Raskin again. I'm going to use both my actions for the heavy blow skill. Again, I managed to hit. Roll a pretty sad 6, but the thug just rolls a d8 for his dice. He gets a 1, so he loses 2 wounds. He's only got 3. He hits the dirt. We get a third good guy activation in a row. I'm going to activate Vilde. What the heck? I'm going to have him advance behind that table there. I'm going to take a shot at the big guy. See if I can't pick off a couple of wounds before he gets to me. Again, shooting through low obstacles. I'm going to have a -1 to the shot. End up only getting a 9, but Duggan maxes out his dice and gets a 12. The arrow just pings off of his armor. There's 2 bad guy tokens left in the bag, so we're just going to take care of both of those right away. Duggan the Slaver is going to advance as fast as he can, and the thug in the bottom right is also going to close in on Raskin. End of the round, Azalea gets to make a little move forward, and we put the tokens back in the bag, draw up another good guy. This was what we were saving our skills for. We're going to use our second wind now. Raskin's going to charge into Duggan, use the second wind, get 2 more actions, use them for heavy blow, rolls up his 2d6 plus 3, gets a real nice 14. Duggan does well himself, but he just can't compete, gets an 11, takes a mighty 2 wounds down to half health. And why draw this out any further? We get another good guy token. Man, my initiatives in the beginning of the rounds have just been great. Raskin takes another heavy swing, rolls a respectable 10. Duggan just can't bring his dice up to speed, doesn't have an opportunity to strike at all, rolls a 7 to defend, takes another 2 wounds. Just like that, Raskin has dashed Duggan's head in. That's what you get. Bad guy token comes up, but it's a little bit too late. All we got is a thug to attack. He moves into Raskin, rolls his d8, only rolls a 2. He can't possibly hit me with that strike. Raskin rolls a 9, takes no damage. Another bad guy token comes up, the other thug closes in, and then we get a third bad guy token in a row. Another swing from the closest thug. Again rolls a 2, again can't hurt Raskin with his 7. The last token left in the bag is a good guy token, and you know what? Jill hasn't gotten to do anything this game. I want her to get a piece of the action. Jill moves up behind a thug trying to bonk Raskin, takes a swing with her short sword. She's got a 2d6 minus 2 versus the thug's d8. She rolls a pretty healthy 8 down to a 6, and the thug rolls a 3. Jill stabs a wound off the thug. Can't do any better than that. Nicely done, Jill. Azalea continues to creep along the north edge of the table, and it's a new round. First token goes to the bad guys, so the closest bad guy is the thug. We're going to roll randomly to see who he tries to strike, either Raskin or Jill. Obviously, I'd rather it be Raskin. And sure enough, it is. Thug rolls another pretty substandard 4. Raskin defends easily with a 13. Back to the good guys. Raskin just wheels around, takes his 2 actions to do the heavy blow attack, squishes the thug with Raskin's 11 to his 3. These thugs have not rolled above a 4 this entire combat. Not that it would have helped. Raskin's 11 would have defeated him no matter what he rolled, but still. Next activation is the bad guys, so the one remaining thug moves up and strikes at Raskin. Finally rolling a little better, gets himself a 7. Raskin rolls his 2d6 plus 2 to defend, gets an 8. Sorry, close, no cigar. In return, Raskin wheels and whomps him, 10 versus 1. 2 points of damage, that's gotta hurt. There's one of each kind of token in the bag. 50-50 chance as to whether it's a good guy or a bad guy. But like it's been all game, on the battlefield, it just goes the good guy's way. We get the final activation. Yeah, we're just gonna end it. Raskin makes an attack, gets an average 10. The thug can't possibly defend against it, but just to make it as embarrassing for the bad guys as possible, he goes and rolls a 1. The thug dies, we win. Not only did we win, we went through that whole adventure without taking a single point of damage. I don't know about that. Yeah, I've got a pretty optimized build with the high swordsmanship and all that. Yes, I managed to fail almost every single non-combat roll I was forced to make, but these bad guys just did not have the juice. We return Azalea to her kingdom, we get ourselves 20 wealth, which is pretty good. Raskin gets 3 skill points, which is just below the cutoff for level 4, so we're still level 3. That's good because there's a limited number of these adventures. I want to still be able to do a level 2 through 3 adventure before forced to move on to the level 4 adventures. As for those skill points, yeah, I put 1 into swordsmanship. So now he's got a +4 modifier every time he swings that hammer of his, which is probably excessive. Okay, I've got his swordsmanship as high as I need it. I can move on to other things. I'm going to put a point into luck, which now gives me a +1, and 1 into survival. Why not? So I've got a lot of money at this point, and not a lot to spend it on. You know, I picked up this Ring of the Silver Arrow in the last adventure, and I couldn't figure out what it was because we're dumb about magic stuff. But there's a thing where I can pay 35 wealth to get it identified, and so that's what I'm going to do. The weird thing is that if I just went and bought a Ring of a Silver Arrow, it only costs 30 wealth. It's actually more expensive for someone to figure out what this thing is than for me to just go and buy a new one, but whatever. Anyway, it's a magic ring. When you wear it, you don't take any penalties for shooting over low obstacles. Well, it turns out Vilde was doing that a lot this game, so that'd be a worthwhile magic item for him to have. Here you go, Vilde, you can have a silver ring. Thanks for joining the party. As for the game, I'm sorry that was so one-sided. I don't know what to tell you, I guess sometimes it just kind of goes that way. I did still enjoy it, even though I was pretty sure I was going to win. I like seeing what happens with Raskin and Jill and now Vilde. Sure, it was disappointing, but also totally on brand for us to leave another helpful person to die somewhere. Thank you for watching. I think I am going to go on with Rusty Dagger. I did download a couple more adventures from the Facebook group. The next one I'm going to try out, I think, is the Red Widow. Hopefully you'll see that before too long. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, observations, or concerns. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one.